Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
Welcome to the Market Mystics 2024.
2024. It's unreal. So before we jump into our topic today, we wanted to talk a little bit about some extras, some bonuses, some over-the-top things. It's not over the top, just over the norm of content that we have available. Josh, you want to talk about this a little?
Yeah. So if you are watching this video on YouTube, and would be exclusive to YouTube. If you scroll down just right below the video, there's you can like the video, you can subscribe to the channel, which please do those things. You can leave comments, but then there's also a button that says join. I think it says join. It might say memberships, but I think it says join. And you can join our membership channel. It just says join. And if you click it, it pops up and it says, hey, do you want to join this channel? It's $1.99 a month. And in that, you get access to some bonus content. And so we've taken some things we've done, some projects we're currently involved in, and we are adding that to the bonus content so that there's actually material for you guys to watch there.
Yeah. Some examples of what is already there are our past book club sessions. So if you missed it, but you wanted to do it anyway, you can follow along. Just go back, find the book club. And the finale of our very first book club, we did have the author on, Paul Young, who we've had on for a podcast before, but he dove into his process and stuff like that, which was really cool. Another thing that we have there is we have this group of people. You've heard us talk about working on a project in South Africa. We have this group. We recently did a workshop called From Load Shedding to Load Sharing. But we're doing bi-weekly teachings with that. It's ongoing, and it's really this roadmap into walking as mature sons. And it's not just Joshua and me, it is multiple other teachers as well. And I mean, I've gained a lot of things just from the 2 or 3 that we've done so far, but that's a bi-weekly thing, and that will be exclusively available there through the Market Mystics. And then as time goes on, there will be other extra bonus content.
Yeah, but there is some good stuff there already. So if you're interested in that, please check it out and join us and help support and grow the channel. But yeah, we have some plans for other things we would like to do as well in that bonus content category, just to kind of make it, just go into some things and have some space where you got to put a little skin in the game to be part of it. And I think that that's great.
I like it. Reminder, we also have a Discord channel.
We do.
It's always in the show notes, but we don't talk about it a whole lot. But one of our favorite things is to connect with people. This is what we do. This is why we interview people. This is why we always ask for people to comment, is because we actually legitimately like that connection. And I think connection leads to community. So we have this Discord channel that also it is free to get onto, but if you're a member, you can get into some different private server areas to have different conversations with us and with other members. So that's also an option.
It's awesome. All right. Well, when we were talking about what we should talk about today, we kept having multiple little conversations, and they were I don't know, half or quarter conversations of like, what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? And finally, we're like, okay, we just need to talk about one of them. We need to make an episode about one of them. And we took some notes. We might make some episodes about the other ones. But one of the things we talked about first was um, this idea of growing your intuitive energy. And I recently did this conference a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that the teacher was talking about was how you can use speaking in tongues to grow your intuitive energy. And there's multiple ways of doing it. Like meditating is a great way. But this, the conference was specifically on tongues. And it was, but one of the things that they did was take like a deck of playing cards and have you focus your energy on your thoughts, pray in tongues, whatever, on the first card and see if you could guess, is it a heart? Is it a spade? Is it a diamond? Um, and it was interesting because I had the thought in myself, like, oh, like what is actually the purpose of being able to figure that out? Like, what's the purpose of actually being able to do that? And so I was just having this conversation with Father in prayer one day of like, it's kind of gimmicky, silly. Like, what's the point? And like, kind of two answers came to me. One is it gamifies the situation, which helps keep you engaged and invested in what's going on. It's not boring. The other thing is you're just simply learning to develop that muscle. So, are you actually going to use that in real life? Probably not. Probably you shouldn't. In that way, like, you don't want to go to the casino and be like, oh, that's a seven of hearts. Like that's I don't think God would ever be like, that's why I wanted you to learn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But learning to develop that muscle on your own, like by doing things like that, helps you, like, I think would help you in just hearing the voice of God in other situations. Like it's a pretty powerful thing. And one, we've talked about this a lot, about developing your, like, practicing your faith. And so we did in July of last year, we did the action series where it was all about like going out and actually doing something every day. But I think part of that is just there's a resistance sometimes to uh anything that looks like work. And it's just this mentality that, well, if God wants me to do that, he'll just magically, spiritually give me that ability. And sometimes he does. And there might be situations where sometimes he's like, I need you to do this, so here's this ability. But other times, like, part of maturing is like growing that muscle, building that tool. Um, and I just think, like, I've heard other people talk about, yeah, sometimes when I drive to work, I just ask God, okay, what road do I take? And just trust that even if it's 2 minutes slower to take this other way, that I'm just going to listen to that intuitive energy, that inner voice this time. And as you develop it, I think that can really serve you in life. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that, Kim?
I do. Sorry, I still have stuff in my throat. I think, first of all, I want to like address what could be the elephant in the room with this.
Mm.
I think that so many people in the Christian realm have gotten so scared of witchcraft. And I mean that, scared of witchcraft, scared of participating in witchcraft, knowingly or unknowingly, that they take some of these concepts and abilities that are God-given abilities and they throw them out because they have been used in a twisted or wicked way, right? But intuition is absolutely something that is from the Lord. We've talked about this so many times before, like tuning in, like tapping into the mind of Christ, right? That one consciousness, those kinds of things. This is all like that circuit board from the Father. Like it is
Mm,
being connected to Him who is connected to everyone else. And why on earth would that be wicked?
mm,
You know what I mean? And so I think easily you could hear the premise of this conversation and be like, oh, it's you're trying to be psychic. And I'm
mm,
into that, it's witchcraft. Well, what if it's not being psychic? What if it is tuning in and developing a tool and, like you said, a muscle that you were born with? Intuition is just like widely and regularly regarded as something that you are born with. You just have to know how to listen to it.
mhm,
Um, so what if it is just exercising that? And if it is, again, some of this that you're talking about, like, why would I do that when God could just drop it in my lap when it's needed? Well, why do you go walk on the treadmill and climb the Stairmaster? Is it because you can't walk somewhere else? No, it's because you're building muscles and muscle memory so that you're able to use it other places when it's needed, right? Like, is there any actual benefit or point to walking on a treadmill? There is not, except to exercise his muscles,
yeah.
right? And so I think that's kind of the premise of what I'm hearing you talk about, is being able to tune into this. Like, can you recognize this? Can you tune into it? Um, can you practice this so that when it is needed, it is a well-oiled machine and
Mhm.
not just a something that you have to say, okay, God, you're going to have to give me all of the abilities because I've gotten nothing, which is also not a terrible place to be. But I also believe that as mature sons, we do have some responsibilities in the kingdom. And I do think it's better to be partnering with him than just saying, okay, give me what I need
Yeah.
all the time, you know?
Yeah. I think that's important. My mind was on this like, mm, while you were talking about that, I was thinking, I had this conversation with someone a while back about um, God using the muscle of your imagination to show you things. And they made the comment, well, I'm just so worried that I'll see like that the devil will step in and give me a different vision. And I know this wasn't their intention, but what it showed that they believed was that the devil could influence their mind more than God could.
Ooh.
And that's like, that's that demonstrates how like the power structure that you believe in. And I think that's really fascinating because I think it's common to do that. I find myself do that sometimes when I'm learning something new and I'm like, well, I don't know about this. And it's like, well, like, how come I'm not? Paul Young made this comment on one of our episodes about it's not as common for a Christian to study something outside the box to find the life in it as it is for them to study something outside the box to find out what's wrong with it. And that is like, that's not who I want to be.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't want my fellow believers and brothers and sisters in life to have that mentality either. Um, and so, yeah, I just think that it's really interesting. Uh, it's a really interesting concept and thing to talk about because is it something that you could use for personal gain and greed and turn it into witchcraft? Absolutely. Is it something that the Father could use for healing and restoration and um like connection? Absolutely. And so I think in most situations there is a opportunity to use something for life, and there is an opportunity to use something for death. And that gets to be our choice. And I really think it's amazing that our Father is patient enough that even if we choose to use it for death, that at any moment, if you turn and say, "Oh, I was using that wrong," that He'll meet you right there and help pull it back in the right place. And it doesn't mean that you got to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just need new bathwater.
And that's true. I was just thinking about how for years, if someone would say intuitive or intuition or something like that, I would associate it so much with like my soul personality type. I was for a while very interested in and studied up on the Myers-Briggs personality testing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is fascinating, but I also got to a point where I realized it was a measure of kind of how you function in your soul, not necessarily how you function spiritually, and not necessarily how you function in your body. But as we're talking about this, I just think about how when I was fairly studied up on that, being intuitive had to do with really tuning in, like not looking at things at the surface level, but like looking a little bit deeper, tuning in, like really listening, really paying attention. And I think it's very similar. I mean, the word doesn't really change spiritually. You know what I mean? It really is tuning in. It really is paying attention. Um, you're talking about cards, and I mean, I grew up playing games with my family. We played cards, we played board games, all the things.
Yeah.
I tend to be a pretty strategic person, but the way that I learned to do that was through intuition. So I would watch other people and how they play. And I would pick up on what they're interested in. And so if it's a word game, I could give a clue according to how they think about things, how I've noticed because I've paid attention, how they speak or they think about things or what their interests are. And I can speak that language to them, and then they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's not like being super smart. It was paying attention. That's what it was. You know what I mean? But I think even spiritually, it's very similar. So even if we're still talking about cards, it's tuning in, it's paying attention. It is like picking up on what is out there. Because again, I really do believe that we're all connected. And the level which you're connected depends on how much you're open to that flow. And again, I really do believe that it comes from the Lord. Like he is every conduit that all these things flow from. So if Josh, you're thinking something, I don't think I get something directly from you. I think it actually goes through him and to me, because I think that's the connecting piece. Right. Anyway, I think it's that paying attention. And I think spiritually it's very similar. I think in the soul, it's very similar, but it's paying attention to things of the soul, the mind, will, the emotions. And I would say the same in the body. People have talked about like just walking in a room and like their skin prickling. You know what I mean? That's intuition. That is your body responding to something that it's paying attention to. Whether your mind knows that it's paying attention or not, your body is like responding. And again, I mean, I said this earlier, but I think it's one of the most natural abilities that we have. Sometimes we're taught to ignore it and go by only the things that people have determined are valid. I think sometimes we do it to ourselves and we wind up not trusting that intuition because things haven't turned out the way we thought they would. And other times I think we get so distracted by everything else that it's just easy to not pay attention.
Yeah.
So I suppose my like real world application of this would just be like in how to exercise this would simply to start paying attention. Because sometimes it comes as a still small voice. Sometimes it is just that little inkling of something. But when you get that, press into it, like lean in, take that action that maybe you're getting to do, like taking that turn instead of this turn that you would normally take on your way to work, like you were talking about, Josh.
Yeah.
It may be, I don't know, ordering the rice dish instead of the pasta dish. I don't know. But some of these things, like there's communication that's happening all the time within ourselves and from ourselves into that Christ consciousness. And I think we would all be better off if we allowed that to be exercised.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's wise words. It's just allow it to be exercised. Allow yourself to practice and have faith that God is good enough that you'll be okay, even if you mess it up the first 100 times.
For sure. I've messed these things up more times than I could possibly count.
Yeah.
But also there are times when they hit and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a very real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Good stuff. Anything else on intuition, Joshua?
Not that's like jumping to my mind. I think this has been a really interesting conversation. Like,
I think so too. I'm gonna play poker tonight, so
we'll see if you can make it work.
It's so funny. Actually, the other day I think it was, I mean, it was a while ago now, I suppose. It was on Christmas, I think. Our family was playing games and we wound up playing poker. And my sister, who has been on the show, she was our first guest ever on the show, I think. Christine, she was playing with us. She doesn't usually play that game with us. And there were a few times when like my son had a certain hand and she's like, do you have this? And there were no tells. Like, again, I'm someone who tends to be pretty observant with those kinds of things. There were no tells, but she just like nailed it.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's so weird. It's like, I just get this image in my head. And if I don't think about it too much, I know that's what it is. Otherwise, I'll convince myself it's not. But that's a really good example of like simply being like paying attention, just tuning in and not letting those little inklings just fly by.
Yeah.
But what if you put legitimacy to them? I guess that's part of it too. Like, can you allow legitimacy or legitimizing some of these things that are coming through your intuition instead of just dismissal?
Yeah.
That might be a sweet little practice in itself. I need to do that too.
I think everything that we talk about is really for us.
I think you're right. You're completely right.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff.
Hey, well, I'm going to practice my intuition. Maybe we'll report back. We'll see.
It depends how it goes.
It depends on how it goes, or if I remember.
That's right.
That too.
Awesome.
Okay. Good topic today, Joshua. Thanks for bringing it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's good stuff. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
See ya. Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Visit upperroomcd.com where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.